The sheer joy and excitement a losing team's fans feel when they start winning is one of the purest forms of energy we can experience as humans. It's this childlike sense of wonder that sweeps a whole arena of thousands of diehard fans that have been through the thick of it with this team. It's the rise after the fall, or the continued fall, depending on who it is. We've seen it with the Pistons when they break a losing streak, but the new-look Hornets have been on fire since the trade deadline, and well, that feeling's pretty similar. So the question is, am I making this video so I can talk about Tre Mann and Vasilije Micic? 100%. Is it well-deserved? Yeah, 100%. So are the Hornets good? I mean, this is not my traditional are they good video by any means, but I really want to focus on these new players. So is this version of the Hornets before Lamelo Ball and Mark Williams come back, are they good? Well, I don't really know. They've gone 3-0, and 2 of those have been against the Pacers and Hawks. So, kind of? But there are a few reasons behind these wins that might just be temporary. Having so many new players that didn't really get a lot of time on their previous teams leaves scouting reports pretty thin, so it's possible that the Pacers and Hawks particularly didn't really know what they were coming into. The Grizzlies, of course, getting the first batch of it, really didn't know what they were getting into. Without much time to really learn the playbook, this new-look Hornets has played a lot of really intuitive basketball, a lot of really reflexive basketball, so it's kind of hard to predict what they're going to do, and that is a good and a bad thing for this Hornets team so far. Sure, your opponents may not know what you're going to do, but at the same time, you don't know what you're going to do. But at least so far, it seems to have worked. This, along with the lead up to the All-Star weekend, and teams kind of maybe easing into the All-Star break, could also have played a factor. But all that being said, these are 2 really solid wins, and the first 3-0 stretch the Hornets have had this year, regardless whether or not Lamelo Ball and Mark Williams were in and playing. So it's nothing to laugh at or ignore. Now, even if the Hornets get on a hot streak, they're probably still not making the play-in. They would really have to go on a hot streak. I mean, they're 11.5 games behind, oddly enough, the Hawks that they just beat, who currently sit in the 10th place spot. They're probably not making it, unfortunately. So even without a real postseason to play for, seeing this team resurrected is still awesome. Like, the energy and excitement around this team that is like kind of the first glimpse of being good in a minute is pretty cool. Now, before we look at the new guys, let's take a look at the main guys the Hornets have been relying on this year. We've of course got to start with one Brandon Miller, the controversial number 2 pick this year. The dude has been balling, notching a couple of 30-point wins within the last month, or 30-point nights, I should say. But of course, being a rookie, he's still really up and down. Now, being the number 1 scoring option typically has helped, especially since Lamelo Ball has been out, but he's still a rookie, so he's going to have more off nights than your regular vets would. Now, Lamelo Ball, not back from injury, but when he does get back, it could be very interesting, to say the least, in terms of how he plays with Micic and Mann if they play within the same rotations. Now, the other big name on this roster that is not the 3 I've previously mentioned is, unfortunately, Miles Bridges, and well, he's a big name largely for a lot of negative reasons off of the court. Now, he has been playing like he's playing for his job, which is very possible, even though I think he's got a player option this coming year. But even the, coming fresh-faced into the Hornets fans, they are kind of on the page. It's like, he's good, but can we please maybe move him? Yeah, so those are the guys they've been relying on, which is largely why they've not been doing great, because 2 of those 4 guys have been out. One of them was out for like pretty much the entire beginning of the season, and then Brandon Miller's just trying to been holding it down within various parts of those other 3 guys. So not only has there been a lot of injuries and shakeup in terms of this roster, but this organization is in transition with a new ownership group and Mitch Kupchak, the GM, stepping to more of a assistant role, I guess. Not like an assistant GM, but more an advisory role is the more proper term to use there. And there's been some buzz around even head coach Steve Clifford not being around next season. So it's really hard to gauge what this team looks like next season, because there could be a variety of changes, and I'll talk about some of the player changes we may see next year as well. But this is an organization that there's a lot of fragile hope for, because changing GMs, changing coaches, there's a lot of fresh energy coming in that could also be just as easily broken depending on who comes in. Now, on to the new guys. There were 2 big moves at the trade deadline, bringing players in: a deal with OKC for Gordon Hayward and a deal with Dallas for PJ Washington. In these deals, Charlotte would get back Tre Mann, Vasilije Micic, and Bertans from the Thunder, while getting Grant Williams and Seth Curry from the Mavs. Fun fact, Grant Williams and Seth Curry are both Charlotte natives. Double fun fact, Seth Curry's father, Del Curry, not only played for the Hornets, but also does their in-game broadcast. And triple fun fact, they also share the same number of 30. Now let's start with the Thunder guys, and we're starting with none other than the man himself, Tre Mann. Wearing number 23, Tre Mann has been balling out for the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, out of this 3 small game sample size, he's flirted with a double-double each game and started each game. He's even got close to a triple-double a couple of times in there. He's playing on average a little over 30 minutes a night, and that'll likely go down when Lamelo comes back, but still, it's impressive. I mean, being a Thunder fan and him not really like getting a lot of run this year, looking back to last year, he was a scorer. That's what we kind of thought, and I had no idea he could hustle, rebound, and pass like this. I mean, I know in interviews he's said he's been working on his playmaking and trying to expand his game, and this just really shows it when you give him the opportunity. I mean, the hustle, the energy, chasing down rebounds, jumping in the middle of groups of guys to get rebounds, making the extra pass, not shying away from any of that, but still doing what he does well in scoring, calling his own number, is incredibly impressive. Now, he is an expiring contract, so if the Hornets don't sign him this offseason, I think these performances, if they can continue to even some degree like this throughout the year, we're looking at a Tre Mann on a different team that could make a difference. So if we go over here to Basketball Reference, go to the Charlotte games, let's take a look. So he's played just over 30 minutes a night. He's shooting 45, almost 46% from the field. He has had 4.3 attempts a game on average, shooting 46% from 3. So dude's been balling. Not a lot of free throws, but he's averaging 7 total rebounds, 7.3 assists, and 1.3 steals on 13.7 points. Dude is not LaMelo Ball, but dude is good. Like, this is a guy that can help that second unit or play alongside Melo as like a secondary playmaker, secondary ball handler, and be very, very impressive. Now, wearing number 29 is Vasilije Micic, the 2-time EuroLeague champ and EuroLeague MVP. While there's some aspects to the NBA game he's still getting used to, he's looked more and more comfortable with each passing game. With the last 2 games not being really big box score blowouts, he's not passing the test on like the stat sheet, but he's definitely doing it on the eye test. He's doing a lot of the work that just doesn't show up in the box score while still making this team good, raising the floor of everybody on the court with him. He's averaged just about 20 minutes a night so far, And it's going to take some time to get him in condition, and that's kind of the same with Trey Mann as well. Having sat a lot of these Thunder games out, they just aren't in game condition yet. So this is kind of, I don't want to say the worst they're ever going to be, but this is like the floor moving forward for at least the rest of this year. He's a great connector guy, and he's had a lot of confidence in terms of putting up shots. Now, if we go over to Basketball Reference, let's see what Micic has been doing these last 3 games. Alrighty, so 22.5 minutes a night, not bad. He's shooting 52% from the floor on 8.3 attempts a game. 2.3 3-pointers a game at 42%. Not shooting a ton of free throws. Getting 2 total rebounds a game on average. 6 assists on average on 11 points. So, while individually none of the players that Charlotte got back are their superstars, none of these guys are Lamelo Ball, these guys as a group do kind of what OKC does, and you can have, 6 to almost 10 guys potentially score in the double digits if no one's having a hot night. It's one of those games, they're making all the extra passes, they're getting everyone involved, and it's worked these last few games. And then, of course, we can't forget about the Latvian laser himself, number 9, Davis Bertans. And Bertans is just doing Bertans things. He's not getting a lot of minutes. When he comes in, he's usually hitting a 3 or 2, and then he's going out. So, cool that Bertans is still playing, but he's definitely not been as big of an impact on the floor as Tre Mann or Vasilije Micic. Now, on to the 2 Charlotte natives coming by way of Dallas, Grant Williams and Seth Curry. Number 2, Grant Williams has been showing out for his hometown, recording a double-double against the Hawks and scoring double digits in all 3 games he's played as a Charlotte Hornet. He's been really vocal and a big part of keeping this team organized on the floor. He's averaging about 30 minutes a night so far, and he's been a big part of this new-look Hornets team. Now, if we go over to his Basketball Reference page and look, he's actually played quite a few games for the Mavs this year, so he's much more in game shape than anyone else so far, or anyone else in this trade, to be honest, or at least coming into Charlotte. So he's played just over 30 minutes a night, averaging 51% from the field on almost 12 attempts a game. He is shooting almost 6 3-shot attempts, I did not realize that, a night, scoring about 35. So definitely, it's not the higher tier, but for that volume, that's pretty good for a guy that's not known as a 3 specialist. I actually still think that's a right around or just below league average, but still, this is a pretty good stat line so far. 7.3 total rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal, and coming out with 17 points a game. He has been on fire these 3 games. He's really doing quite a good job for his hometown team. And last but most definitely not least is number 30, Seth Curry, coming home to play for his family team, his hometown team, as it were. And it's really all that more interesting that his dad is the voice of the Hornets, or one of them. It is listening to Hornets broadcasts is so fun, because when they get energy, they get energy. It is feast or famine with them sometimes, and just hearing them talk about Seth Curry is so fun. He's not been necessarily blowing it up like the other guys, but he has been doing Seth Curry things and been doing them quite well. So as we look through his Basketball Reference page here, he has played quite a few games. Probably not quite similar to that of Grant Williams. Not quite as many, but pretty close. But he's played more limited minutes. So if we look at the span here with Charlotte, he's played just under 20 minutes, about 18 and a half a game. 7.3 attempts from the field on 54% shooting. 4 3 attempts at 33%. I imagine we'll probably see that take up just a little bit in the future. Not really getting a lot of free throws. 1.3 assists and, oddly enough, rebounds a game. 1 steal a game, and coming out with 10 points on average. So, out of the 4 new guys, not counting Davis Bertans, the 4 guys getting real minutes here, all of them are scoring in the double digits so far. And that is nuts to me. That is, at the minimum, 40 points your team is scoring additionally. Because, let's face it, Gordon Hayward being out and PJ Washington were not 40 points a night. So that might do a little bit of explaining in terms of their overall skill and their overall ability to win games. Now, as I said, this season's kind of lost. This is really the new management group trying to gain favor with the fans, basically. And these winning streaks, or this winning streak, has been really helpful. Now, there's no real hope for the postseason, so they're kind of not looking towards that. But if they really can hold this team, if they can keep these 4 guys, kind of forget Davis Bertans for a minute here, I think this team could actually be quite good next year. I know seeing how Lamelo and Mark Williams kind of come back in is going to complicate things, but I do think they can work it out. And I would really like to see Tre Mann, Vasilije Micic be here. I mean, Vasilije Micic is probably going to be here anyway. He's got, I think, 2 more years on his contract. Tre Mann has expired, or his contract has expired, so he'll need to be re-signed. Grant Williams has a couple more years, and I think Seth Curry, I think his contract expired this year as well. So if he does come back to continue to play, I can for sure see him sticking with the Hornets. I think the Curry connection is just something they don't want to pass up, and for a relatively cheap contract, that would make a lot of sense. He's 33, so I could see him coming back for like a short contract, but who knows? Who knows? Regardless, this new Charlotte Hornets team can be very good. Right now, they're fun, but I don't know that this current iteration would be playoff worthy. Like I said, making the play-in is a huge stretch for them. I don't really see it happening. But if this team stays together, these 4 new guys, Brandon Miller, hopefully my old friend is not there, Lamelo Ball, Mark Williams, Nick Richards, Cody Martin, if they can stay together, I think this will be a really fun team to watch next year that can